Hello, what is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And today we're going to be recapping Power Book 2 Ghost, Season 4, Episode 2, and the title of the episode is To Thine Own Self. And I'm joined today by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
Yeah, what's up indeed? And Richard has been a very busy man. He's been doing his reporter thing over in LA. Been to some press conferences and stuff. So yeah, check out the site, thecoalition.com. We got a lot of stuff going up there, soon. And we're also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
Amazing. I'm doing wonderful. Excited to talk about episode 2. It feels like episode 1 was just a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was, obviously we recorded earlier than that, but yeah, that episode was last week. But yeah, Dana's been busy too. I see she's been out at a few events. She was even at the premiere of Ghost and some other related events, I believe. So, since it's power related, Dana, do you want to talk a bit about that, like what you saw and how the experience was and everything?
Yeah, so there were 2 big main events that occurred last week-ish. One was the premiere of season 4, Ghost, but also it was the 10-year anniversary of the Power universe itself. And so we had a huge premiere down at the Hammerstein Ballroom, which is all the way downtown in New York City. And they had the entire cast, except for Omari, the entire cast from all of the Ghost series that was down there. So we got to talk and interview a lot of the people from Tommy is coming up. So we'll have it, scheduled throughout the weeks. So it's not just bombardment of like, here's 80 interviews in one day. So but Tommy was there. We had Lorenz Tate, who does not age a day. We had Notori. We had all of the original cast from Power. Tommy also talked about Origins. So that was a lot of fun. He's talking about, the cast that he hopes that he can see within Origins. He really wants to make sure that they get, obviously, the role of Tommy correct. And there, I know Amari posted stuff on IG why he wasn't physically there. There's like one of like maybe 4 different opinions that I have. Was one, if he did occur, it could spoil something in this series. I don't really think it would, because he is the originator of Power. He is Power. Because of him, we really wouldn't have any of these shows. So I think he deserves his flowers. He deserves to really be there on the red carpet. Maybe he had a falling out and was like, look, I'll support you from like the internets, but I don't want to deal with y'all anymore. But then we heard about how they was trying to bring him back. So maybe there's some type of tie-in. I don't know, but if he was truly, truly missed. So I got to speak to him, got to speak to Method Man, got to speak to 50 Cent, which, that was interesting and fun. And then we had the premiere party, which I posted a lot of the clips that I can post online. And it was a lot of fun. We got to see Mary J. Blige was there, and, all of these people. Golden Brooks was there, who plays Janet in the show. Sax was alive. Cooper Sax is alive. There's a video of him that I have of him dancing. So it was just a lot of great fun. And it wasn't like I was expecting like, oh, it's going to end at like 6 a.m. It ended at midnight. It was like, you got to go home. It's tired. Because, a lot of the press has been here since like the morning. And they've been doing press that whole day. So it was just really a nice event. It was really good. Everybody looked good. When you get a group of Black people in the room, they smell good. Everybody's tailored. They washed. They groomed. Teeth are shining. So it was good. Great food as well. So it was just a lot of that. And then the second part that I went to was called the Power Experience, which was all the way downtown in the Soho area, which was really nice. It kind of has recreated a little bit of the Power universe, or basically Ghost. You come in, and as I showed, there's a video that I have uploaded. I have more that's uploaded later. You come in, and there's all of the pictures of the entire cast that's in Ghost, and you place a candle on who you think will die. And there were people who were like running towards the Tariq. I was really surprised by that, because I was the only one who was like mentally thought, oh, he needs to die because it's going to be really, poetic. But people were running towards that. It was a lot of Monets. There were a lot of Drews. There was also Davis. I was like, oh, really, Davis? Okay. I put down the candle for, I really want Drew, but we all know that Carter is going to be most likely the one taken out, because if you look at all the seasons, they tend to take out the big baddies, at the end. So we got that. Also, sorry, backtrack. Joey was there, Mr. Joey of the Badassness, and he spoke about Unique Breeze. He is convinced that I don't know what you're talking about. Breeze who? Which means for me, he's Breeze. So yay, Breeze, he's coming back. But he did talk about the secret that he's known for a while, and they had to, make up this story of, oh, he's doing all these different, music stuff, and he's not going to be able to make it in order to kill off the character, but essentially bring him back. So that was a lot of fun. The Power experience, you came in, you put down the candle, then they had like either you can go upstairs and you can get like a mocktail at the club, or you can go downstairs, and it was like a place called Monet's Nail Shop, and they did your nails for you, which was really cute. They had this little gel nail polish that they gave out to everybody. You got to choose between burgundy, black, or gold, and they would sit and do your nails. So the girl, she was all right. I wish it was better. She didn't do the whole nail, so it was like, I guess I'm not paying for this, so that's a good thing. But if you want to do somebody's nails, do the whole nail. Don't just do like a little circular thing. Anyway, so that was nice. There are pictures that I will upload from the event. There are videos that I already uploaded from the event, so that was really cool. And that's my monologue spiel of everything. We will have a bunch of interviews that are incoming. Yay. And also, I interviewed Effie, the actress who plays Effie, about episode 2. So that ties into this as well. You'll get more of what Effie has to say about her decisions that she made in episode 2 and in the first episode from last week.
Oh wow, that's great. And yeah, it sounds like you had like a real good time at these events. And yeah, I was looking at some of the videos. Like it was cool to see Sax boogieing down. He's definitely not dead. Sax is alive. Start the hashtag now. But also, I don't believe a word Joey Badass says, because he he was trolling us, like making us think he left the show. I don't think he's Breeze, but I do think Unique. He's going to be around for a while. I think that's what it is. So, but yeah, that's great that you got to meet and talk to all of those people. I do like that game where you had to put the candle on who you think is going to die. Like, I think that's a great idea. So yeah, it sounds like you had a blast, and we have to thank Stars for inviting us out. Obviously Dana lives in New York City, so she can actually make these events a lot easier than Rich and I can. So it's great that you were right there to be able to attend the event.
But when they have their UK spinoff, boop boop boop, you'll be there.
Oh yeah, that I hope they do something over here. And yeah, maybe I'll show my face. Shouts to Movie Bot, he might be there too. So yeah, and shouts to DJ as well. So yeah, great stuff overall. Let's get right into episode 2 then. Our takeaways and everything, because that's what the people came for. So this week, I believe it is Dana's turn to go first with the takeaways. So when you're ready, Dana, I'm sure you got your notebook full.
I got my handy dandy notebook. Got it.
There you go.
Yes. So I have takeaways. My first main takeaway, which will lead into like the overall marching theme, I'm slightly upset. We're back at the classroom, and that is something that I didn't want. I wanted them to be completely kicked out of school, and therefore they have to truly survive on their own. But we are back at Stansfield, and my heart is just sad. Very sad. But we have to start off like how we did before with the lesson from the classroom that apparently, Tariq and Braden is still at because they didn't get expelled after all, and they should have, but whatever. And this lesson is basically about the banality of evil and political leadership, a political and psychological exploration of whether evil is a necessary component of successful leadership. Now, fantastical. For those who don't know, the banality of evil basically means the boring parts of evil. You think that, there's huge excitement and there's huge games, and that is true. But most of the time, there's the boring parts that you have to do. There's the evil doesn't look like it's screaming and yelling and shouting at you. Evil is Mr. Bob taking the trash can. But, he's the leader of this massacre. But he takes out his trash. He takes out his girls to school. It's about the mundane things that people do, but there's still evilness in it. And this ties into the Power X experience that was very interesting that I didn't put together until I saw this episode. There was a tour of Tariq's bedroom, which is the video that's also uploaded. And in it, he had a lot of Machiavellian books by Machiavelli and by these great leaders who were also very evil. So I think this is what we're getting into when it comes to this season, is the everydayness of what evil looks like. And for some people, that would be the drug business. For other people, it would be how Monet treats her kids. Oh, that woman is evil. Drew is constantly trying to kill her in every scene. Because why? She's evil. Oh, look at what Noma's doing. That's evil. So it's about, what does evil look like? And in order to succeed, what do you have to do? So I wanted to start off with Monet is having a huge arc right now, which I'm also mad at because I like when my villains are just villainy and they never change, but we're starting to see a bunch of, what's that term? When you reflect, but on yourself. I forgot the actual term that you use for that, but she's doing that self-reflection. And she's really starting to ask, did I ruin my kid's life? And we have these flashbacks of how it's something as simple as, look at where we're living. I want to belong to something. I want to be able to turn on the sink, the water, and it's not brown. I want to be able to open my windows and it's not across the street from the crack house. But you see what she has to do in order to achieve that because of the economic status that she's in. So we've seen that, Lorenzo always, it seemed like he was the one who took the lead. But we're starting to see back in the past, she was the one who really had to take the lead in order for them to fully make it. So all of that, I didn't know what I was doing. I had to take care of the family because you left, placing that blame on him. We're starting to see this is kind of all her. Now, maybe the master plan at the end of the day wasn't to kill him, but in order for her to get that form of success, she had to go behind people's back. She had to go and make it a way for Lorenzo Jr., which I was like, oh, who's Lorenzo Jr.? I'm confused. But it shows the simple task of, wanting to do better for her kids, but she's put them in danger. Even when he was a baby, by putting the gun in the baby seat, what is it, car seat? I don't have kids, so I don't know, what do you call it? Baby seat, car seat, whatever seat. And you saw how it placed him in danger. And all of her actions leading up to today has placed her children in danger. So it was really interesting with that and how to me, it seems like she's spiraling and how she completely ruined that deal with the Russians. She showed up completely high on the cotton of the oxys, and she ruined that deal. She was completely out of her mind. I was expecting there to be some kind of shootout, but she passed out, and instead Effie had to take her home, which was interesting. And then the biggest arc came from when she overheard the conversation between Diana and Drew. I don't believe that I'm not 100% sure she heard the fact that he was trying to kill her with the pills, but he definitely knew that, the kids have some kind of resentment towards her. And I'm happy that she's starting to understand that. But in the same way, I kind of just liked her being bad and not caring. But, she's going to have a redemption arc, it seems, which to me will probably lead up to her being killed. Oh, I finally love my kids. I'm seeing them as human beings. And then, no, I'm dead. So that was one of the big main takeaways for me. And I'm looking forward to how this changes the projection of the character. She's still got that edge to her. She's still showing up trying to do stuff within the game. And Kane said very clearly, you can argue whether or not it was harsh or was just basic reality of facts. The game has changed. It's time for her to sit this one out. So I'm wondering with this, and also in terms of, whether evil is a necessary component to success. Is she going to return back to her old ways and go against Kane's wishes in terms of sitting this one out? Because she was successful for what she was, and she does view Noma as someone taking her spot. So that's one of the things there that I was kind of interested in. Another thing is Effie's arc. She is taking more of that leadership role, and she is choosing to take that leadership role. Now we can argue, yes, it is a number, but I'm interested in whether or not she's starting to like that power. She is, what I'm noticing is that it's not capable of balancing being this leader and talking to the Russians and working in the drug business with being a successful engineer. Because remember, she decided to help Kane instead of going to her interview for the engineering job, internship, placement. And that is, it seems to me that, the two are not going to be able to live together. And that is really kind of sad. And also a callback to, remember, Kane called her by her government name, which was like Josefina Morales. And now you see the split identity between Josefina's the girl who was before the game happened, I feel. And Effie is who she is now when she's sitting down and she's talking to the Russians and she's being that computer hacker. And I asked her whether or not the two can ever become one. And I don't see that is something that is happening, especially not right now. And you see the sacrifices that she has to make. And you also see how, people are not appreciative of that. She came and was like, look, I want a higher cut. And Noma was like, no, you're doing exactly what I told you. Now, with this new position with the Russians, maybe she can get that higher cut. But I'm wondering, and I'm interested in what does her successful leadership look like? Will she have to dive in more deeper and get deeper into the game in order for her to be successful so that she can leave out of it? And she seems to be the only one who's like, I want to completely get out. But she's stuck because one, Noma, and two, she has that number that she has to reach. We did a really great job of explaining how money works with this episode. And when you don't have money, how, even with loans, you still have to pay this back and that burden that you carry. Which brings me to Tariq and Braden. They decided they wanted out of the game. Tariq was working 3 jobs. It was at the laundry, it was at the candy shop, and it was at, what was it? I think something with Jim. But the point is, you see how they're working for $11. I wasn't sure if that was per job. I think that was just in total, like $11.25 or $11.50 per total, which is, nothing compared to what they were raking in previously. And how he's realizing, yes, I want to be normal just like everyone else, but being normal may also mean being broke. And while Brayden has that cushy, real estate job, because at the end of the day, Brayden is white, he has connections. So yes, he's kicked out of the family, but if you notice, he wasn't kicked out of the family in terms of we're not going to even provide you with a job. There wasn't no communication with the whole family saying cut him out. He's still able to survive. This is a choice for him. And yes, you can argue everyone makes a choice, but this is truly a choice for him. While he does not like working in real estate, he has a way more fancier cushion and a better fallback plan than Tariq or any of the other castmates because his family has set him up with that power. And you can argue, yes, Ghost had that initially for his son, but it's not the same. You know, Braden's whiteness can succeed, can make him successful no matter where he goes, as opposed to go back with Detective Carter. Oh, remember, he can't seem to ever escape his past, even though that is not his past. He's answering for the sins of his father. You know, and if you notice, Braden's not answering for the sins of his father. Yes, they took down the Weston name in the school. Yeah, the kids are upset, but he's not really paying for his father's sins. He got a cushy job at real estate, selling houses. When you look at what Braden in that confrontation, not Braden, Tariq in that confrontation with Detective Carter. Yeah, you see, you look like him. You smell like him. You act like him. You're no good like him. No matter what he does, he cannot escape that. So it is unfortunate and it's really sad, but you're starting to see like how people are treating him differently than compared to what's going on with Braden. And then, you know, kind of lastly, even though there's more, but lastly, you guys called it. Once again, I'm angry. I think I've been angry at every single point that I have made at this thing. While I appreciate this episode and it moved the characters forward, I'm angry about the fact that Diana's pregnant because now that's just predictable. What was interesting is the doctor's response. I think she would have chosen not to have the child if the doctor wasn't so. It was given racist vibes. Like, you know, think about it. You know, you don't have any money. Do you even know who the father is? Those kind of questions. Excuse me? Excuse me, would you be saying that to, say, Braden's sister if she walked in? Would you be saying that to, you know, Cheryl? Or is it just, you know, Diana and Shaquita? I'm confused. I'm concerned about what's going on. So yeah, she completely overstepped her boundary with that, and it was just terrible. So now we're stuck with a baby. Yay. And I just, you know, kind of feel like this is just a cycle and a trap. Sorry to say that word, but it's kind of a cycle of what Tasha. I don't know what the ages were when Tasha got pregnant, but I'm going to assume it was young. It wasn't an elderly pregnancy, which you would be considered in your 30s. I'm thinking that it was probably teenagers, very early 20s. So you got that, and then you have also when you look at what's her face, Monet. She was clearly a teenager because they wouldn't show that. These were youngins who was raising that baby. So, you know, it's just another cyclical thing that I really didn't want, but this is where we're at. So her story is definitely going to shift, and she didn't tell anybody, but we do know that conversation that she had with Effie, she has to start pulling. Everyone has to start pulling weight, and it's going to be really interesting to see the dynamics and how that ends up coming into play, especially now that she is with child. And comes just lastly, just want to side mention, rest in peace to Opie, because they're slowly getting rid of that character. He wasn't needed in this episode. You know, it was like, you know, thank you, have a good day, bye Opie. Even Kane was like, get away. And then Detective Carter just up and arrested him. So, you know, I think Monet knows what's really going on with the green cards, but she's seeing how long this is going to last. But she knows, because why would she bring it up? And this is not her first time bringing it up. You know, she was like, oh, you're distracted. And she said that, like, you know, last week. And he's all like, hey, I know how to satisfy you. And she's like, ew. And I'm like, ew, what's going on? So right then and there, you just kind of knew that it was the end for Obi, because that body language shifted and it's gross. So yeah, That's all I have to say. Also, another thing, just really quick, Davis, where is your clothes? I want to know what's going on in terms of is he requesting these scenes? And also, you see how terrible of a lawyer that her counsel was? That was a terrible counsel. Do not sleep with your clients because clearly you didn't spend that time going over your case, which is why you lost. But also, as a side note, there is a quote by Corinne Steffens about Method Man, and he said, "He filled me up, and I couldn't take it anymore, but I wanted more." So, yeah, he's showing that. He ain't Method Man. It's Corinne Steffens.
Wow. Yeah, your takeaways were like very entertaining. And what you said about is Method Man requesting it, like that's hilarious because Richard literally said the same thing to me earlier. Like he was saying like Method Man must have it in his contract or something.
Yeah, he has to. He has to. It was hilarious.
It's a bit spicy, a little saucy. It seems like, it's something he wants to act out. First it was the two women, now it was the random lawyer. And she's all like, and he's all like, and if you're dripping in sweat, who does that with the little patting? Oh. And she's just like, Like I saw him. I interviewed him. I understand the appeal because he said Miss Abercrombie, and my stomach dropped out my butt. I was like, ooh, and I get it, but at the same time, where are these scenes coming from? You've been on that series since what? Episode 2, season 2. All of a sudden, we're getting this questions. Also, spinoff. So yay.
Oh, what, Method Man spinoff?
Why not? See, Lorenz Tate's character is really taking a back seat. We don't see him. Where is he? So Method Man could fulfill that.
Yeah, I would watch. I like Method Man's acting. Like I like him as an actor. He's like very charismatic and stuff. So yeah.
And what if this is all a ploy? All of a sudden we're getting these scenes. Who watches these scenes the most? The women's and the gays. So we want some more. And then he's a good actor on top of that. What he's doing, look at his character. We don't know where that's going. Boom, spinoff. They're playing us. They're working us so we can get that season. So I'm all for it. Fill me up.
Yeah. I have to say your takeaways were excellent. Like they were superb. I was entertained by listening to your breakdown. So yeah, props to you. But yeah, let's hear from Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. now. Hit us with your takeaways when you're ready, Rich.
First and foremost, I'm going to echo what Gary said. Outstanding takeaways as always, Dana. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Gary has to say as well. So my takeaways from this episode. Now, I will say, I thought the episode was good. There are some things that, happen relatively fast in the world of Power because I know that we spoke earlier about other characters that were going to show up as the season went on. And we saw a lot of those newer characters introduced in this episode, the people working with Don Carter. Of course, the lawyer representing a Method Man. So obviously I expect to see those characters again. And then, of course, Janet, and Janet basically, because she's a nurse, she's basically helping Monet with physical therapy. So I thought that was a good way to introduce the characters, to like throw them right into the mix. So we'll see what happens. But my takeaways from this week, and obviously there's a lot to unpack with this episode. So I'm going to try to keep these takeaways brief because I know we're going to talk a lot about other stuff. First and foremost, I want to say this. This episode did an outstanding job of showing just how relentless Don Carter is. The fact that he's working so many angles to try to take down Tariq and anyone affiliated with drugs is absolutely crazy. For example, you saw him trying to convince Davis in this episode that he can help him, become a lawyer again. All he has to do is give up his clients. Very interesting. And then you also saw him later in this episode, confront Tariq. By the way, that was an excellent conversation. I like that confrontation between him and Tariq, where he's saying, yeah, Tariq is a bold-faced liar right in front of his face, but just cool, calm, and collective the entire time. It makes me want to see these two have a showdown. So I look forward to seeing where that dynamic goes. But the dirt that he has on Tariq is that he knows that Tasha is going to get kicked out of Witsack. And of course, that was something that Tariq had to deal with later in the episode, which I'll get into a little bit later. And then finally, at the end of the episode, as Dana already mentioned, he arrested Obi, and he threw out the whole fact that, he is aware that Obi got those green cards for his brother, that they can go away just like that. So I do agree with what was said, that Obi's time is coming to an end very soon. It's just a matter of, is it going to be Kane that takes him out? Is it going to be Noma, or is it going to be somebody else? But I don't expect Obi to make it past the mid-season finale. He'll probably get killed in the next episode or shortly thereafter. But I really like how they established Don Carter in this episode, because the very first shot in this episode, you saw that Don Carter was investigating something that happened with the Russians. And then throughout this episode, you saw him show up confronting different characters. I just thought they did an excellent job of telling you, this is a detective you don't want to play games with. He is going to get some answers, and he's going to make sure people pay. So I look forward to seeing where they go, and what other lengths he's willing to go to get what he wants. So stay tuned for that. My second takeaway of this episode is, let's talk a little bit about Tariq in this episode. I like how they emphasize Tariq is down really bad. Obviously, him doing this whole thing where he admitted in the previous episode that he is basically looked at as somebody as saving the day, and he gets to go back to Stansfield, which, by the way, I agree with Dana. I did not like that they are back in school again, because that's kind of ridiculous. Obviously, it makes for an awkward situation in the classroom where they get into these debates, and then you saw what happened when when Tariq and Effie had that conversation afterwards, and that Tariq is like, you really want me to forgive you? Hell no, I don't forgive you. So it does make that dynamic interesting, but yeah, it's a little ridiculous because Tariq doesn't have that kind of time. The fact that he has the 3 jobs and he's only getting paid around $11. That is, yeah. This is how it was in college. I remember when I was in college, and I had a job, and it wasn't that many hours. But this is how it is. So they're trying to basically, and if you go back to the conversation that Brayden and Tariq had in the first episode, where they said, wouldn't you just like for us to go back to being college kids, going to parties and stuff like that? So yes, this is what they wanted, and this is what they had in this episode. But obviously, Tariq is longing for the power, the money, respect. Shout out to Gary's favorite show, Force. Yes, they are thirsty for the power, and they want to get the money and status back. So Tariq had this plan to get back in the game, and he does this by stealing his car that 2-Bit had. Very interesting scene, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I was very entertained with that. So quick how they just swooped right in and did that. But let me go back for a quick second. He did meet up, Tariq, after he talked to Don Carter. He did go and he did go to see his mom at Shop Depot under a different alias, and basically told her not to come back to New York, to stay where she's at. And by the way, you see my name on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. I am a Shop Depot customer. So I saw the little interaction that Tariq had with this guy in the parking lot. Very interesting. But now that I know the context, yes, Team Tariq all the way. That guy is a jackass. So he deserved what happened to him. I just hope that this does not lead to Tasha losing her job, and then she inevitably does come back, even though Tariq told her, don't come back to New York, because he was very careful when he said, she asked him, are you in trouble? He says, don't worry about it. Mother's intuition. She's going to be concerned. That's her son. So I do expect Tasha to return in some capacity before this season is over. And unfortunately, that may be the end of Tasha if she does return. But we have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, I like how they emphasize in this episode how Tariq may have been able to escape the first episode, but now all these things mounting on him, the pressures of having to pay all this debt with the student loans, all this stuff. So you understand why he wants to get back to a place where he doesn't have to worry about money he's taken care of, and he wants to take care of his family. You understand that. But obviously, because this is power, you already know the characters, they're not good people and they're not going to have a happy ending. So I would like to see where this storyline goes for Tariq. But yeah, stay tuned. And finally, final takeaway of this episode. Yes, this episode focused a lot on Monet. And obviously, as Dana mentioned in her takeaways, they showed a lot of what happened when she was younger, taking care of Kane, baby Kane. And then you saw that she has always put her kids in dangerous situations. We understand the motivation was she wanted Lorenzo to do more. And it's funny to see how she undermined him even when they were younger. And it's like, so that tells me that Lorenzo isn't smart because he knows how Monet is. To let something like this happen when they're older is the same cycle. He should have known better. But it just shows you that Monet is going to try to change. I, however, don't think the character is going to change because, again, even though she had these moments of clarity where she was thinking about bad decisions, she keeps asking the question, did you find out who shot me? And then at the end of this episode, she meets up with Tariq. And again, she's asking him what happened. And then, and very interesting that he brought up Kate Egan, the fact that he found out that she spoke with Kate Egan makes me kind of wonder if Kate Egan is going to show up now that they mentioned the name. I look forward to seeing where they're going with that. And that may cause Tommy to make a return. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But it's going to be very interesting to see where they go with that. Also, what I do love about Monet in this episode, even though she was reckless with her decisions, they had the whole scene where she tried to mess up the deal between Noma and the Russians. And one thing that I complained about when Noma and Monet met last season, I was wondering, where's the tension at? Because clearly they both want to be in power and in control. Now you see, because Monet didn't want to do that deal with the Russians, that is going to be an issue. And of course, now that Tariq is in the fold, I can see her working with Tariq and they can try to figure out a way to make their own money. But I want to see how they play that because clearly there's going to be issues between her. And obviously we saw at the end of this episode, Kane and Effie were able to get that deal done. Kane is basically working under Noma now. That's what we're starting to see. I feel we're going to see more of that as the season goes on. But I'm pretty sure that Monet does not like the idea of Kane working under Noma in this capacity because she wants to be in control. So I want to see where they're going with that storyline. It's very, very interesting. But overall, I thought this was a very good episode. There was a lot of tension. Again, I like that Don Carter, this guy is not to be taken lightly. We saw this in this episode from the very beginning of the episode to the very end of the episode. He is relentless. He's going to get his answers. And again, because this is only a 10-episode season, this is what we need to see from this character. He has to progress quickly on his mission. I think he did an outstanding job because in the first episode, we only saw him at the end of the episode. So I like that. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens next week. And stay tuned.
Oh yeah, excellent takeaways there. Yeah, I really like your point about Monet is probably going to look into Kate Egan and try to really figure out what happens with that led up to the whole shooting and everything, and she might find some answers like because she has to find out it was Diana and Drew at some point, so it makes sense that she's probably going to go digging for Kate Egan. Go ahead.
I just want to make a quick comment.
Yeah.
What I find very interesting about this episode, now Monet thinks Kane tried to kill her. And this is why I say this is the messiness of the situation. When she eventually finds out that Drew and Diana set this up, I cannot wait to see that particular moment happen on screen. But obviously their plan is backfired because they said, no, it's not Tariq. But now they had that little scene where she's questioning Kane now because he wants to get power and all this other stuff. So I want to see where they're going with this. But yeah, it's a lot of drama, a lot of messiness, and I'm here for all of it.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Go ahead, Dana.
Did I misinterpret the scene? Because I took it as they're going to take out Kate. I took it as they were in the car and Tariq was explaining everything that he knew, which we know is distorted because He knows who the shooter is. He just doesn't know about the other stuff because remember they switched the game up on him and blamed him for everything. But he does know who the actual shooter is. So the whole involvement with Diana actually being the one who went and gave the letter to Kate, he doesn't know about, from my understanding, right?
Yeah. So what happened with that is because like he basically told her that like because she asked him why do you think I tried to hurt your mom or whatever, and Tariq was like, oh, because you told Kate Egan where she was or something, and then she was like, who's Kate Egan or whatever, and like why does she have my name in her mouth, like why is she saying this? And Tariq was basically like, oh, maybe somebody said that to her to try and kill you or something like that, to get us to kill you or whatever. And then she was like, oh, whoever did that, they're gonna pay for it, basically. Like that's what Monet's that's what her last words were. So she wants to find out who set that up with Kate Egan, who basically, told Kate Egan.
Yeah, okay. I misinterpreted it wrong because I was like, oh, they're gonna kill Kate.
So what's gonna happen when they confront Kate? She's gonna be like, wait a second, I don't know who you are. I don't recognize you. It was somebody that looked, who's a lot younger from you. Maybe they'll put two and two together and figure out it was Diana.
That's why Diana's pregnant.
Why?
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Diana has to be pregnant because Monet would kill her. But
yep.
Oh my God, I'm pregnant. And here's the test. She's not going to kill her. I don't think she's going to do it.
And by the way, I don't know if Gary's going to have a question about that later, but I think that the whole thing about Diana. Okay, good. I think that the whole thing about Diana being pregnant, I think we all know who the father's going to end up being because it will make things a lot more interesting. So we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll save that later because that's going to be a good one. So we'll save that. Let me do my takeaways first, and then we'll get to that. Okay, so my takeaways, like Richard said, like I really like how Detective Carter was shaking things up in this episode. Like from the very start of the episode, like he was making the drug bust. He cut off the Russians supply, and that was a big thing in this episode. Like the whole Russian storyline, that was a big story arc in this entire episode. So like from the jump, he's shaking things up. He's setting the pace of the episode, and then we see that he's pulling up on various characters, trying to get them to flip essentially. So like he goes to see Davis McLean. He wants him to flip on his clients, basically, like to help him get his law license back. Davis doesn't go for it, so he's kind of standing on his square at the moment. But then he also goes directly to Tariq. Now we see at the top of the episode that Carter got a file from his team that basically showed him what Junior was working on, and he gets more evidence that because he already suspected that Tariq had something to do with Junior's death, but he has like more reason to believe it. So he goes to talk to Tariq and feel him out a little bit, and yeah, that conversation was intense. Obviously he was he was talking greasy about Ghost a little bit, saying that he's the biggest piece of shit in New York or whatever. So that was funny. And then also basically like saying he doesn't believe Tariq, like saying Tariq is a liar, like he's able to control his breath like like a real liar, basically. So yeah, and then he drops the whole thing about Tasha, be it her witness protection is ending and all that stuff. So yeah, like he's just stirring the pot. He's shaking things up right away. And then also later on in the episode, he goes to Obi. Obi's like the next person he tries to flip, and obviously he ends up taking him in. But I find that very interesting because obviously this whole thing with the green cards is a big plot point for Obi at the moment. And it seems like he's waiting for his brother to come over or something, on the green card or something like that. So if Detective Carter were to, basically dangle that in his face and say, "Look, like I can make it so your brother doesn't get to stay or whatever, like unless you give us information," Obi might flip, and I think Obi is already annoyed because Monet, I mean, sorry, not Monet, Noma kicked him out when she was with Kane, so he's probably very annoyed by that already. And he probably thinks that Noma suspects him already of like being a snake or traitor or something. So he might actually be willing to cooperate. So that's very interesting. I really want to see what happens, next with that. I definitely think, Obi's on the clock right now. He can go at any moment. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play that card. So yeah, oh sorry, wrong page. Where am I? There we go. Yeah, so next takeaway is so yeah, Effie, like Dana was saying, Effie really stepped it up like in this episode. Like she was moving like a real boss. She was looking like she kind of wanted the crown a little bit. And the thing is with that, it's like, to me, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, Noma's character has taken a big step back so far this season. Like in the last season, she seemed like a really big threat. Like the way they introduced her, cutting off was it the man or woman's hand or something, like to get back the ring, Mecca's ring and stuff. Like yeah, like all of that. And then you had the scene in Italy where she had her ex killed, and everything like that. Like she seemed like a real menace in the last season. This season so far, it seems like she's always kind of like a step behind what's going on. Like she doesn't seem like she has her finger on the pulse fully. Like she doesn't come off as like a threatening plug, um like a lot of the other villains that we've had, like Mecca. Like Mecca was like the top G in this, like, in Ghost. Like he was the best one. And yeah, she's not looking, to be that formidable of a villain so far in this season, so I find that very interesting that Effie was the real active one making moves in this episode, because she was the one who went to the Russians. She negotiated, the Russian meeting Noma and everything. And then, when it all fell apart because of Monet, she then, Kane had to go to Effie basically to set up the whole gun thing and everything. It's like she was like the dark horse of this episode. She was like getting stuff done. So I'm wondering if they're kind of like setting up her character to kind of, maybe take over or like play a big role in what goes on in the streets later on, down the road, or when the show ends, maybe Effie comes into power or something like that. And Tariq has to leave the game maybe or something, or they run it together, who knows. But yeah, it seems like they're really kind of building up her character. Now I know her main motivation is that she wants to get into the engineering class. So that's like the main reason she pushed to do all this stuff, because she wants the money to kind of pay for that. But I don't think it's going to go according to plan for her. So, so yeah, like she's going to have to use her street smarts, because she clearly has them. She's going to have to use all of that to kind of, put a stranglehold on the streets, I think. Um, and if Noma were to leave or get taken out, it's going to leave like a power vacuum, and it's going to leave, it's going to leave roles for people to take over. So, yeah, I think to me, the way Effie was written in this episode, it's like they're grooming that character for something big. So that's interesting to see. And then final takeaway. So Tariq, yeah, I think a lot of his motivations this season is going to come from Tasha. From her, she's obviously in a very vulnerable position currently because she's getting out of WITSEC. She's not going to have that protection anymore. And Tariq knows that because she was the one who shot at Monet, she's at risk, because if they do find out it was her, then, obviously that's going to cause a problem. She's going to be a target at that point. So I think a lot of his motivations are going to be around protecting Tasha. And we saw that, even just the boss touching her and telling her what to do, like even that was a trigger for him to act and rough up the boss, crush his fingers and stuff in the parking lot. So he, that's going to be his main motivator, I think, his main sensitive point in this season. And I like what Richard said about Tasha possibly getting fired. I do think that's a possibility. Like maybe she ends up getting fired, or maybe she even ends up quitting because it's too much or something like. And then, she ends up going back to New York, and then that puts her in a vulnerable state. So I do see something like that happening down the line. But I do find this all interesting, even though that's Tariq's motivation for then wanting to get back into drugs because he wants money. The working life is too hard for him, and he wants to, get back to the drugs so he can make money and protect everyone and everything. I think it's funny that his desires are shifting so rapidly, because last week, he did want to just have a normal life and go back to college and just be normal again. Like that was his main thing. And we were all mad at him because we were like, this is everything your father wanted to give you. Like that's the life. That's literally the life he wanted for you, like to just be a normal college student. And then, he gets that again. He gets that opportunity again in this episode. And already he's seeing how hard it is and he wants back in the game. Now, you could put that down to him maybe, being spoiled with all the money he was flashing last season because, he bought himself a Porsche and everything. So like, when you're exposed to that much money and that much disposable income, it is hard to go back. So, I guess he's kind of seeing how, dull it is to just live a normal life, like, working 3 jobs and only making $11 an hour or whatever it was, like he's starting to see how hard it really is. And he's like, I have all these skills in the streets, so why am I wasting my time? Let me just use them and get this money quickly, live the fast life. But we all know what that comes with, and we all know he's going to get himself into trouble once again. And another thing that Richard said that I liked was the possibility of him maybe working with Monet, because Monet, she's not very fond of what Noma's doing at the moment. And Tariq, he obviously wants back in the game, but he doesn't trust Kane and Noma. So it would be easy for them to kind of team up at this point. I mean, they were already talking in the car. They already have a rapport with each other. And we saw in Monet's memory, in the flashback scene, we saw how easy it is for her to just get a couple packs of drugs or whatever. So she could do that if she wants to. So I could see that possibly happening, and that would be an interesting alliance, because we know that his motivation is to keep Monet away from his mother. So him then working with her, I mean, on one side, it's the perfect way to keep an eye on Monet, but also it's a dangerous game, because you're also exposing yourself and your mother to you know, to what could possibly happen in the future. So I find it all interesting, like the whole dynamics right now with Tariq and everybody else is very interesting, and I want to see where exactly the writers are going with it. But yeah, as for them going back to college, I I'm over it. I already knew it was going to happen. I knew they was going to end up back in college. Obviously, with the way the last season ended, I feel like they were kind of selling it to us like, okay, this is it now. There's no going back. They can't go back to college. It's all out war now. Like that's the way they were selling it with the ending of season 3. So yeah, with that in mind, I am disappointed that they didn't fall through with that all of the way. But I just feel like this is what the show is. I think like this is what their goal is for the show, is to have these college kids that also are drug dealers and are mixed up in street stuff. So I think that's like their whole goal for the show. I do feel like they did rush them back to college. Like they could have maybe played on the whole them not being in college a bit longer, but hey, it is what it is. This is the show they want to make, I guess, like, college kids and stuff. So whatever, I don't like it, but it is what it is at this point. So that's all I got to say. But yeah, those are my takeaways. And yeah, I have some very, very good questions this week. One of them, Richard alluded to already. So um, we can get straight to that. But quick reminder, first of all, shout outs to all the people. Thanks to everyone in the comments who returned last week to drop a comment and share their thoughts on what they thought of the premiere episode and everything like that. So please do, if you're listening, stop right now, drop a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. You can also hit the bell. Dana mentioned it earlier, but she has interviews coming. So you do want to be subscribed. You do want to check out those interviews and all that good stuff. So please do that. This is your friendly reminder right now. So yeah, with that being said, let's get to the questions. And I'm going to start off with the one we all want to talk about. We know what it is. So, so yeah, your girl Diana, she found out that she is pregnant in this episode. And of course, there was that scene that Dana mentioned where she was talking to the doctor, and the doctor was all like, yeah, are you sure you want to go through with this? Like, you have to have the right environment, um, you know, all that stuff, trying to allude to her lifestyle and all that. And Diana got understandably upset with her. Um, but there was a moment in that conversation where she was like, do you know who the father is? And Diana was like, yeah, I do. Of course I do. And stuff like, but does she really know? And this is a two-part question, by the way. Does she really know who the father is? And also, who do you actually think it is? So, two-part question. Because just to remind everyone, there was Salim, I think his name was Salim, the other guy, the nation of domination dude, whatever. So yeah, like there was him, and there was also Tariq. She did, spend the night with Tariq in the last season. So does she know who the father is, and who is the father? So, oh man, who do I even go to first? I don't know who. I want to hear from you both, but I'm gonna go to you first, Dana. What do you think about that?
I just want to say that one, I was the one who predicted this, and I'm really upset with myself because remember that trailer that we did, Richard? And I was like, this looks funny. Why is this woman pregnant looking down? But Asalaka like we saw the dude, we saw Asalaka like in the trailer being beaten up by Kane. And we was like, oh man, he's back. And I was like, maybe he's a stalker, you know, Nobody knew. Somehow, people are going to know that Diana is pregnant. And this is how we get Assalamu alaikum back. He's going to come back truly believing that that is his child. And this is when I feel Kane has to take him out. We don't know. We know that there's a fight that occurs. We don't know the extent of it, but I do believe that is what that scene is or could be alluding to. Because it wasn't like in episodes 1 and 2, we saw him sneaking around the corner, being a stalker. We didn't see that. From this moment, from my understanding, there's no reason for him to return. But if he thinks that he is the father of that baby, you can't get rid of him. And so I truly believe that is why we're getting him back. Now, who do I think the father is? I don't want it to be Tariq. Obviously, that is a lot more complications. And yes, you can argue that makes, the story even bigger and better. But no, it's not. It can also be very burdensome. They're stuck together for those 18 years. And I truly do feel that it's becoming too much like Ghost and Tasha. They had this kid, now, they have to be together, even though you can clearly see their relationship. He did not like her at all. He met Angela and was like, oh my God, the love of my life, I love her. And you could see that he was just stringing her along and she was allowing herself to be strung along. And you can argue, and this, I'll raise the question later, there's an argument to be made that in a way, Tasha ruined Ghost's life, even up to his death. And I just don't want that for Tariq. I don't want everything to be copy and paste. So I'm really hoping that this guy is actually the father. And that creates a whole new dynamic. And then you see Kane, he's so hot-tempered. What is that going to do? Because he truly cannot stand that guy. Again, he also hates with a passion Tariq. But this guy, he never liked from day one. He was able to see right through him from day one. So this will be a very interesting dynamic. And also, he knows what the family does. So he is also a threat to them as well, as opposed to Tariq, where it's like, if I go down, the whole ship goes down. So do you really want me to go down? So this guy, I feel, is going to be the father.
So you think Salim is the father? Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So Rich, how about you? What do you think? Two-part question. Does Diana know who the father is? And also, who do you think it is?
Great question. So first and foremost, we are going to see the return of Salim because, as Dana mentioned, he was in the trailer getting whooped. I personally think that Diana believes that Salim is the father. But here's the issue. Salim doesn't want anything to do with her or the Tejadas. So when she tries to approach him, he doesn't want to hear about it. This is what leads to him getting beat down and possibly killed because he didn't want to address that situation. But here is where it gets interesting. I hate to say this for those that are going to be angry. I think Tariq is the father. Because, yes, it's a lot more complex because in that same trailer that we looked at, there was a scene of Tariq. He had Diana at gunpoint, but he did not pull the trigger. He stopped to pull the trigger. Obviously, he's going to find out at some point she's going to tell him she's pregnant. And maybe up until this point, she thinks it's Salim. He's the one, so on and so forth. But I kind of feel like it would make more sense for it to be Tariq. Because from the minute that they introduced Diana and they showed how interested she was in Tariq, both Monet and Lorenzo did not want her messing around with Tariq whatsoever. Kane also didn't want that to happen. That's why it makes sense for Tariq to be the father, because it creates more complex situations within the whole family dynamic. And obviously, because Tariq was adamant in this episode when he says, well, as soon as I get back to power, I'm taking everybody out. Now this complicates things. You can't take out Diana if she's pregnant with your child, right? So that's why I kind of think that's the path that they're going to take. I agree. I know some people will be angry about that, but I do want to see where they're going with this, because I also am of the mindset that, and I could be wrong, I think this character now is safe from getting taken out. If she's pregnant with child, I don't see them killing the character off. Now, I could be wrong, because they killed Holly. Remember when Holly was pregnant and Tommy killed her? So they could still take that path. But I kind of feel like I don't think she's going to get killed off. She could show up in a spinoff if they decide to do another spinoff. But I don't know. I'm just very curious to see which path they take. But the fact that Tariq was getting busy with all these girls, it 1000% makes sense that somebody would get pregnant, and from as far as the storyline goes. But again, let's see what happens. And the last point that I will also make, Dana mentioned that, Effie had a conversation with Diana in this episode, because Effie wants to continue to make money and funnel it through the candy shop. If she ever finds out that Diana is pregnant and it happens to be with Tariq's kid, oh boy, that's going to be very dramatic, because I've been waiting for these two to have a confrontation from the minute that with Tariq being the whole one that's a part of this. That would be a very crazy situation. But hey, this is the messiness that is power. So I'm expecting that to happen to make it even more dramatic. But we shall see if that's the path that they go down. Go ahead, Dana.
I would like to propose a plot twist. What happens if the child is actually Salim's, but Diana lies and says that it's Tariq's?
I like that.
And you don't necessarily have to say, oh, it's to trap him. What if his life, because remember, Tasha's the shooter. Oh, you knew it was your mother, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to go and shoot you. You can't. He's the father of my kid. And she does it to lie in order to protect him. So it either could be malicious or it could be to save him. But I strongly believe that is something that they could go into, where it is that plot twist. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a total possibility, like a lie to save, Tariq or something like that. Yeah, I could see that happening. But yeah, I mean, as for what I think, I don't think she knows totally whose child it is, and I feel like they're gonna like really play on this drama over the next few weeks, like of trying to get us to figure out who's really the father. Like, maybe there's going to be different scenes of her talking to both Salim and Tariq, and we like they're they're pulling us along, basically trying to figure out, wait, is it Tariq or is it not? I think it makes sense to be Tariq though, just because this show is clearly about Tariq and the Tejadas. It has been since the first season. So like to tie these two families together by blood makes sense, by having a baby involved. And I think it's also kind of a poetic ending almost. Now I don't know. Well, I assume Tariq is going to live at the end of this, but I just feel like, having a baby kind of signifies, it's like a sign of the future. Like it's a sign of new things to come along and stuff. So I feel like it makes sense for it to be Tariq's child. Because it's like getting rid of the old and making way for the new kind of thing. It's like changing, it represents a shift in life cycles. So maybe, I mean, the way this episode is, it has me thinking like maybe Effie is the one that goes on to kind of live that drug life. Maybe the baby is a way out for both Tariq and Diana. If Monet dies, I think, like, because I think the only way they could be free from it is if Monet and Noma die, because we see that Diana kind of didn't want to be fully involved in the drugs before, and she obviously has sort of like a rivalry with her mother a lot. Like they get into it, like they bicker quite a lot with each other. But Monet is stuck in a cycle. You know, we see it in her flashbacks and everything. Like she's always gonna, she's almost like, you know, like how Tasha and Ghost were. Like they're stuck in that cycle of always having to go back and do what they were doing before, kind of thing. So I feel like if Monet dies, maybe, and maybe Tasha dies too, you know, I feel like Diana and Tariq, maybe this is their way to move on and kind of have a normal lives, and maybe whatever spin-off comes focuses more on, you know, Kane and Effie or something like that. Like, or I don't know. I don't know what direction they're gonna go, but yeah, I feel like the baby could be an out, you know, it could be a means to an end kind of thing. And I do feel like it's poetic to just kind of tie these families together for life kind of thing, especially since both families have been such a big part of this entire show, like the entire Ghost show. So I do think it makes sense for it to be Tariq's child, but they could, you know, they could throw a swerve in and make it Celine's. Who knows? I do think that's a great point about her possibly lying, or, you know, just saying something to kind of save Tariq's life. You know, like she might not be totally sure it's Tariq's, but she might say it is just to save him. Like that could be something that happens. But yeah, I want to see what the people think. Like, what are you guys saying out there? Like, whose baby you think it is? But Dana, you wanted to say something else, so go ahead.
Yeah, and I know that Richard once said showdown between Effie and Diana, but I truly believe this gives Effie another reason to get out in terms of not messing with these people anymore. Because remember, she went and she saved Tariq's life in episode 1. And then she confronted him about it and was like, no, we're still not good. I don't want anything to do with you. There really wasn't any appreciation. It wasn't like, hey, thank you. It was still of that, nah, I don't want anything to do with you. I truly feel that Diana being pregnant with Tariq's child would be that ultimate, you know, I'm washing my hands in this entire situation. And she can go off into the sunset with Monet, or maybe choose that engineering. But I do feel that is a way how we break away from this character. This character can break away from this whole situation. Get Monet her money and just leave. There's nothing tying you. Oh, you had a kid with Diana. I'm not tied to Tariq anymore. Now the whole thing is like what happens with Kane. I don't really know, and I don't like the situationship where we're starting to get too nice and too comfortable with each other. I don't know where that dynamic is. Maybe because I'm just, you know, look at the negative all the time. But I'm not fully trusting that relationship. Or maybe he is the answer to her getting out of the business. Remember, he helped put the money on her books so she can go to school. And remember, he kept helping her throughout the way, and he called her Josephina instead of Effie. So maybe they end up being that couple who actually makes it work, and they go off together. He's the drug dealer, maybe, and she's like, you know, I'm working engineering, but I can help maybe once in a while, but she's not in that game anymore. So who knows? But I like that much better than her running after Tariq. Are we okay?
I just want to say that's a very good point. Let's put a pin in what you said about them being a couple, because I saw something that would make me think otherwise. But we have to wait until it plays out on the show. Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, like I said, you know, Starz advertises these episodes now with clips. There was a particular clip that I saw that makes me feel like, oh, that's not going to happen exactly that way. So let's wait and see the context of the clip, though, on the show. But I just want to make this comment. What's say what?
What did the clip say?
It's more of what we saw at the end of this episode, where Kane is getting closer to Noma. And then there was a clip where Effie comes out and says, hey, you aren't jealous, are you? So that tells me they're going to have some issues in terms of if this is a relationship or not. The other thing I want to mention, am I maybe the only one that thinks this? I don't think Effie is going to make it out this season alive. But let's wait and see, because to me, when she made that decision to do this deal with the Russians, that was her interview opportunity to go for the engineering internship or whatever. I kind of feel like that was a life-altering decision that was made. And because the way they emphasized it, where she already marked down the date on the calendar, and they show you once again, this is happening today, and she chose this over that. So I kind of feel like that means things are probably not going to end well for her. But we have to wait and see what happens.
I like that. More predictions and stuff. Yeah, I mean, they were writing Effie really well in this episode. So either that's to kind of throw us off that something is going to happen to her, or they're setting her up for something. So you could be right. It could be that she ends up not making it. Kane definitely has his antennas up, I think. He, first of all, he doesn't trust that it wasn't Tariq that was involved in Monet's shooting at all. Like, he still believes Tariq had something to do with it. And also, like, I still believe he's kind of keeping one eye open when it comes to Effie. Like, I think he doesn't 100% trust her, but he might have a soft spot for her, but I don't think he 100% trusts her. So something could happen between them that leads to him maybe taking her out. So that's a possibility for sure. But yeah. Any more thoughts on that before we move on? Nothing else, Dana? No? Okay. So where do we go? Oh man, so many questions. Okay. Let's talk about this one quickly before we move on to the other one. So Tariq's car broke down in this episode after he crushed the guy's fingers under his foot, and he obviously needed to get a replacement vehicle, and he conveniently had a spare key for the Porsche that he bought, so he used that as a means to get his car back from 2-Bit. Now there was some speculation about, because we obviously saw the Porsche in the trailer, I believe, the season trailer. So like there was speculation of like, does he kill 2-Bit? Does 2-Bit die or something? But I'm glad that wasn't the case, because 2-Bit is he's a great character to bring back. Like I do enjoy seeing the character, and I hope that he plays a bigger role in the future, maybe even going to Force or something. But I just wanted to ask you guys quickly what you thought about, the whole 2-Bit, him stealing the car from him. And do you think that we're going to see 2-Bit return again, in this season? So, Richard, what do you think about that?
Well, the car is the sign of status. And we know that Tariq is now trying to get everything back that he once had. So it made sense for him to go after and get the car. I will say this, though. The fact that he was able to use his spare key. I mean, 2-Bit still has another key. So if 2-Bit does see that car out somewhere in the area, wherever, he can just get right back in his car, Tariq's car, that is, and drive off. So I kind of feel like there's going to be another meeting between these two characters this season. Because that was a very abrupt situation, and like you said, Gary, 2-Bit is a great character. I would like to see him, have a bit of a conversation, if you will, with Tariq about what's going on with what he did. But to answer the question, yeah, I like that he was in this episode, and I just want to see what happens from here. And that's really all I can say, because I'm not really sure what else they're going to do with him. I did think it's funny. Shout out to Vegan Korean barbecue. It's Dana's favorite place to go now.
Is that a real place then?
That's it's real.
Okay.
I've never had it. I've never had the desire to want to have it, but I can assume it's like a bunch of tofu and vegetables and like fake meat, which is worse than real meat. But here's the thing, you guys are missing one point. When he was following him right before he went to steal a car, he said, not today, but eventually it's going to be your time. We're going to him and Brayden was like, we're going to kill him, but just not today. So I wonder if that's going to be like a countdown to something. Secondly, I think it would just be hilarious. And I wish is why I don't know what they're going to do with another spinoff or another season, but it would be hilarious to just have them go back and forth with stealing the car because they both have the key. So let's just have them randomly, give my car back. No, they stole the car. And then that's just the banter that they have. And they end up being like lifelong enemies because they have the car, but they're forever tied together because of the car. So I did like seeing him back again. And I do want more of the scenes. And I think he should be one of the people that doesn't go. He's still alive. What was really interesting was that I thought Kate, in that moment when they had that conversation, again, I was like, oh, they're going to go kill Kate. I think that they should kind of still do that. We would have to go back to Force. She essentially lost her grandson in a way with that whole situation that happened over in Force. So I just really feel like, what else can she bring to the character? The ups and downs of being clean or being addicted, great. But if she was to be actually taken out, that would be something. And therefore, like Tommy and maybe, what is it? I think the lawyer, the white lawyer, he's not dead. They could be like the last two. You still have Tariq. We don't know whether or not he'll die this season, but one of the last surviving ones, and randomly let it be 2-bit. So I think that would work. But overall, I really like this scene, and I liked how they just kind of slotted it in there for necessity. And also, it's the running joke that he doesn't have a car, and then he got the car, and then he lost the car, and now he has the car back again. We go since he was a kid, he never really had the car. So we'll see what ends up happening. But at the same time, I do wonder this: will it flash too much attention? Because season 1 is, and whatever season it was that he got the car, I think it was season 4, no 5. What are we on?
Season 3. Yeah.
When he got the car, he was in a much different position where he's at now in terms of the law. Looking at him, and Carter definitely staring at him. Where did you get this money from? We see that you're working $11.25. For some reason, you have a Porsche, and that wasn't technically included in the will. I don't know whether or not police records have what the will and the trust is, but it's a little fishy, and I think that car could be his downfall. So, I'm not too excited about him getting the car back. It was funny, but overall, I really don't think it's smart.
No, that is a great point. That's a very good point, because him having the car back is gonna bring a lot of attention, and Carter is already onto him, and he's gonna be like, how can a college student afford this Porsche? So that's a good point. And I do like that idea as well of like them continuing to steal the car from each other. Like that would be funny. Like to see Tariq maybe getting into a dangerous shootout, and then he has to make a quick getaway, but the car's been stolen by 2-bit. Like that would be funny. Yeah. What was you gonna say? Something else?
I was just saying your mic, it gets really staticky.
Oh, it does. Okay. Let's see. Well, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next question then. I'm not sure if Richard is back, but yes. So what did you guys think about these flashbacks? The flashback scenes in this episode. Did you guys feel they were necessary? And also, like, I understand that it's part of like the introspection of Monet and her kind of like reflecting on her life and like, you know, coming to terms with the fact that her children don't like her right now or not aren't big fans of her and stuff. So it was part of her internal kind of recovery and pondering her life after, you know, surviving the shots and everything like that. But do you feel they were necessary, and what did they tell us about her character? Because, you know, it seems like, you know, she's kind of always been the same kind of person. It seems like she's always kind of, you know, going off on her own and doing her own thing behind Lorenzo's back and you know, stuff like that. And she's always still staticky. Okay. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna pass it over to you while I try and fix the mic situation. So what do you think about
All
that,
right,
Dana?
well, very simple. I think that whole scene was to set up that omen that baby Lorenzo said, which was, I don't want our kids mixed up in this. And then we all know what ends up happening in the future. So I think it's for her to one pinpoint exactly where things went wrong with the kids. And also, you know, Lorenzo was right. And I'm starting to wonder if she will start to regret not just the choices that she made with her kids, but the choices that she made with Lorenzo in terms of you know, them being together and him dying. And then you also have to tie in with Mecca. So I'm wondering and I'm waiting to see if there's going to be flashbacks of them, you know, Mecca, of young Mecca as well, because it was essentially this love triangle where it was her heart really belonged to Mecca, but Lorenzo kind of had that power. So that love triangle will be a very interesting way to see it all play down. I don't know what this ends up tying into when it comes to the very, very end, because you would have to do the flashback to when Mecca, Lorenzo, and her was in that room together when she was dying, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. I love that they did that. But I feel that there is some kind of, you know how it is, the ghost of Christmas present, past, and future. I wonder if they're setting that up to like, here's the ghost of Christmas past, you know, in terms of, here, this is what your life was before and how it leads to the mistakes that you had today. But at the same point, it showed that in a way she really did have very basic means. I want to get out and to, you know, just live in a better place. It was to show how great she was with her kids, you know, and Janet also made that point, you know, you was there for them, but it just went awry. So I'm wondering if this reflection is kind of like a way where in the end she says this doesn't necessarily mean she has to die, but she frees them of her control and them being in the game. Kane, it may be too late, but Diana in a way can be saved. And Drew, you know, he's so angry, he just wants to kill her. But I think freeing him, even though he said, I'm not going to accept any apology, you killed my man. And he's still mopey about that. But in a way, it's to free the children and essentially herself from that. So we could see, and he kept alluding to, Ma, you got to retire. Ma, the game has changed. And we saw her completely interrupt someone else's business. So in a way, you just look at her, she's getting in the way of everything. So this just may be her way and the direction to get her to step down. So let her have these ghosts of Christmas past memories so that she can, you know, understand who she is and maybe become the person that she was never able to become, because Lorenzo technically never asked for, you know, more product. Maybe if he would have did something as simple as that, she wouldn't have to be in the game like that. Because the whole thing was, oh, I did everything that you couldn't do because I don't want to live here anymore. And his whole response was like, that's not how it goes. But it does go that way. So I think it's really interesting how she is a product of her own making, but it's also because other people are not stepping up. So I find it to be really interesting with these flashbacks and how it'll end up, being something bigger at the end, which I think is her retiring.
Okay, retiring or getting killed. But
Well, if she killed, she retired too.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I do see her kind of. I don't see her as being the grandma at the end because she's just done everyone so wrong. Or my question is this: is it better off that she dies, or is it better if she dies of loneliness and all her kids walk away from her, and she never grows up knowing her grandkid? That could be worse than death.
Yeah, that's true. That is a horrible thing, for a mother to be disowned by her children and grandchildren and everything. So yeah, but Richard, I don't know if you were here when I actually asked the question and everything, but what do you think about these flashback scenes and Monet and her whole redemption arc that she's going on?
Yeah, so first and foremost, this may be considered a little controversial. I didn't like the flashback scenes because it was just so unexpected. Like, I know normally when you look at the Power seasons in the casting, I didn't see any casting for a young Monet and a young Lorenzo. So when I saw the scene, I was a bit taken aback. I'm like, and what I also think is because they are showing Monet's entire trajectory as a character, that's why I think she is going to get killed. Because you saw pretty much she didn't change her ways. Even after she has these moments of clarity, at the end of this episode, I need to find out who tried to kill me. She can't let that go. So I kind of feel like that character is going to meet her end by the end of the season. But I do want to say this. The reason why those scenes exist is because it tells the biggest story here. I do believe that Janet is the one that was taking care of Zeke. And you saw when she had her interaction with Janet, and they had their back and forth, and she says, and she alluded to something changed. Yeah, our life's completely different, and she apologized to her. They didn't really dive into that. So I feel like this was done because we are going to see more flashbacks, and we are eventually going to see the flashback where she decides to give her baby Zeke to Janet. Janet's going to take care of Zeke, and that will explain her connection to Zeke as the one that was taking care of him all this time until Monet decided to bring him where she was at. So that's why I think they did these flashbacks. And I think that they're going to continue to show Monet making bad decisions to, like you guys said, pinpoint all of the bad things that she's done with her kid. I do like the theory of her basically losing her family in the end. But I don't know, man. I feel like this character needs to go. That's just my personal opinion. There's a couple of characters on this show I want to see get taken out. Her and Drew at the top of my list. Drew is definitely number one. So, because the way he is unhinged, like he was in this episode, like he was really adamant. He can't control his emotions, and you saw this when he tried to basically poison her food. So, I kind of feel like something has got to give. So we'll see what happens. But overall, yeah, I think these flashbacks are serving the greater purpose to show what Janet's relationship was like with Zeke, and just to show what Monet gave up to keep this thing a secret this entire time that she had another kid. That's what I think this is all about. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I would be interested in maybe seeing more of these because, like, here's the thing, like, if they just do those two flashbacks that they showed in this one, and we just have those flashbacks in isolation, like, and nothing else, then it wasn't that worth it. But if they continue to do these flashbacks and they give us more context, maybe, and they do touch on the whole Zeke stuff as well, then yeah, I could maybe, see the purpose, and they could maybe even like show some mecha stuff, who knows. So yeah, that could be interesting to see. Go ahead, Dana.
Zeke biologically was the firstborn, right? So it's interesting that they would go to Kane. Is the flashback not necessarily for Monet, but to show Kane's trajectory? I wonder.
Yeah, that could be a thing. Yeah, that could be something.
Yeah, that absolutely is what it could be. We have to wait and see, but that's a good thought.
Yeah. Is it still staticky right now? No. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So moving on. So next question is, do you think Carter will be able to successfully flip someone? You know. So I'm going to go to you first, Richard. What do you think?
Yes, he will flip somebody. I think that Obi is a dead man walking, because if they see him talking, he's in police custody or he was with the cops. Game over. Noma's not going to think twice about it. Take him out. It's an interesting dynamic. Also, the thing about Davis, right? Davis has been in Tariq's corner this entire season so far. And he's also telling Tariq about this stuff, that about whenever he's getting approached by people that want him dead or trying to get close to him. I'm wondering, what is it going to take for him to turn on Tariq, and that probably will not happen. So Davis may remain loyal, but I definitely feel like somebody is going to flip on Tariq. And then, of course, there's another character that we spoke about on our trailer show. Don't forget about Lisa Marie, okay? Because that character is returning, okay? So that's somebody who clearly has unfinished business with Tariq. So we have to see how that goes. But I do think eventually somebody is going to flip on Tariq. I just don't know who it is.
Oh, Dana will be back, but I like that you mentioned Elisa Marie, because I do feel like there's unfinished business with that character. Okay, here she is. Did you dip out by accident, Dana?
It was by mistake. I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's all good. Yeah. So, do you think Carter is going to be able to flip someone and use
Yes.
them as a CI?
Yes. This is what they're doing that I love absolutely about Carter and the writing. They're not making him dumb. Usually the cops are dumb. You know, the whole thing would go, no, it's not Ghost, but it's Ghost. It's not Ghost. It can't be Ghost. They're not doing that. They're saying, this is the evidence. The evidence makes sense to me. We just got to get more evidence and put two and two together, and it's going to be amazing because we're going to arrest everybody. And your dad's a piece of dog poop. So I really think that he is a threat because, one, he is a person who's on a mission, and two, like I stated, he is not dumb about anything. And this is when I go back to Tariq really should watch what he's doing, and that Porsche is too much of an attention. That Porsche is like, when that dude from Denzel Washington, when they played American Gangster, and he came out with that mink. You shouldn't be wearing that mink. Just like Tariq should not be running around in that Porsche. So I think that, Obi right now doesn't seem to have the most connections. I don't see Monet. Is it Monet? Yeah, I don't know. Noma, sorry. I don't see Noma really like gunning for him in terms of really, you my ride or die. I'm here for you no matter what. She seems to be very dismissive. That whole scene with Kane. And remember, McCain did that whole imitation, of the British accent, just kind of like Obi. And, kind of like Noma. So it seemed like it was too much of a heavy hand of we're replacing Obi right now. He isn't getting the job done with the Russians. Kane is able to set up everything. Effie is coming in. So the green cards, that could connect too much. And that, in a way, doesn't connect to Noma because it does connect directly to Tariq and Tate. So just cut your loose ends and keep it moving. So I think that he's definitely going to be the main one who goes down. Rest in peace, Obi. And also remember, other people know about the green cards too. Because remember in the very first episode, they was like, "Oh, we know that you got the green cards," and he was like, "Boom, boom." I don't see him shooting no more.
Yeah, those green cards are the worst kept secret. You know, everyone knows about them. You know, but yeah, Obi, he's not gonna last long. I'll be surprised if he makes it past episode 5. To be honest, but yeah. Oh, go ahead, Richard.
And by the way, when Obi eventually gets taken out, we're going to make sure that we blame Gary for that because it was his responsibility from last week's episode. The green card department individual, you're supposed to keep that stuff concealed, Gary. So we're going to blame you for Obi's death when it happens in the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, that was all my fault. You know, I accidentally dropped the green cards in the wrong cloud folder, so everybody
Yeah.
everybody had access to it. So yeah, but what I want to say as well is Davis McLean. He seems like a very solid stand-up guy. You know, in this episode, and he's actually advising Tariq still because he kind of gave him the details on Carter, you know, Detective Carter. So the question I had is, do you think Davis McLean will stay loyal in this, you know, season, or could the pressure to kind of get back, you know, in the lawyer field, get his license back in place, could that make him fold? What do you think about that? So go ahead, Dana. Oh, go ahead, Rich.
So I think sooner or later, Davis is going to start asking for some money because he is helping Tariq all of this time. Tariq obviously has a plan now to try and get back into the business. So when Tariq is able to get back into the business, Davis is going to be asking for some money, some collateral to keep him quiet and to keep everything. I do feel like that's going to happen because that's one thing about Davis that we've seen in the previous seasons. He always put pressure on Tariq to pay up so that he can remain his client. He hasn't really given Tariq a hard time about that because obviously people are coming after him as well to get information. But I feel like he probably won't turn on Tariq, but he definitely going to say, "Hey, Tariq, you need to pay up because I've been helping you all of this time. So I need something for my services." So I would not be surprised if that's what happens in the future. Especially once he knows Tariq is now dabbled in this business again, he's going to be expecting to get some type of cut. So that's what my guess is.
Yeah, go ahead,
So
Dana.
I actually spoke to Method Man about this, and what he said was essentially they need each other. Remember, they know too much of each other's business. So if one goes down, so does the other. And I think that, you know, Davis really needs Tariq to stay afloat, and Tariq really needs the same thing from Davis. Um, I do, in a way, view this as being kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde situation, where I don't think he's going to fold, and it's not because practicing law. It's just because of the sheer other legalities that can happen afterwards. And as you saw him with this episode, you know, and the previous one, he brushed Carter away. He wasn't intimidated by him at all. And immediately he called Tariq, and they're in communication with each other. And then we have in that trailer the two of them in the car together. We don't know what's going on, but it seems like they stuck together no matter what. So I view this as, you know, one of those things where he's going to need that inside guy. And yes, when Tariq is able to get back on his feet, he is going to give, you know, Davis some money to keep him quiet as well. So I think that they're both desperate. They both have something to lose. And they're both doing a really good job at, you know, trying to stay calm in terms of not show their hands to Carter.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like for some reason I feel like McLean is gonna stay solid. Like he's gonna definitely continue to help Tariq. Now, could he be manipulated? I think if he was to be manipulated, it might be by the Tejada family, possibly. Um, because they were previously involved with him, like working with him. So I think if anybody could manipulate him, it would be, maybe Monet or Kane or something like. But I don't think he's going to fold to Carter. And maybe he even knows something about Carter. Who knows? Like, because Carter, I don't think he's all the way clean. He could have some dirt on him too. So, yeah. And we know that McLean is a very slimy individual. He can find some information. He can find some dirt to turn the tables. So I think he could be the great equalizer in this whole situation. So yeah, that's what I think. But yeah, great thoughts overall. So yeah, just one more question and we'll get to final thoughts. Oh well, hold on. I don't know why this mic is playing up for you.
Yeah,
today.
yeah, it's fine now. It comes and goes.
Okay. Is it like real? Does it get real loud or like quiet?
Yes,
Like
staticky.
loud. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me try to turn the gain down a lot. Hold up. See if that helps. Okay, so it's fine now. Is it all right now?
You're way too low.
Way too low. Okay. How about now?
That's good.
Okay. Perfect. Don't touch it.
Technical difficulties. I'm sorry, people. Yeah, so final question, and then we'll get to final thoughts. Will Monet seek out Kate for answers? Now we kind of already talked about this, but we could give some more color to this conversation, I guess, right now. So yeah, where do you see this going? Because obviously the way the episode ends is Tariq and Monet having that conversation. Monet, I find it interesting that she came to the conclusion that her children don't want to find, the shooter. Like she came to that conclusion. She's like, you guys are taking too long, you know. Yeah. Let me sit back a little. Yeah. So I'm wondering, where this is going to go. Like, do you think Monet is going to seek out Kate possibly in the next episode? And if Kate does make an appearance, do you think we'll also get Tommy this season, in the show? So what do you think, Dana?
I think because it's the finale, the final season, we're gonna get everything. And I would have never thought of Kate. And even though, I spoke to them and I was like, we wasn't writing because they didn't know that it was the finale. At least that's what they're saying in the public. They didn't know that it was the finale, but everything seems to be tying together so effortlessly. That whole scene of going to Kate and giving her that letter, we thought would lead up to, we didn't know what was going on with the shooting, but the way how it's like called back now, I do believe that we're definitely going to see Kate because the conversation has to be had. They said her name. It wasn't like it was some random, Billy Bob. Kate paid little Billy off the street to hand her the letter. It was Diana in a wig, but they knew that the name was Kate. So I really think that we're going to get Tommy. Remember the whole thing with Tommy. Oh, this is not my war. I can't come back to New York. So maybe they're going to bring everything to Chicago. And that's what we end up having. And who's to say Tasha's not going to show up in Chicago again? She can't go to New York. But no one said anything about Chicago. So I think that is what is going to happen. And I don't know what jurisdiction Carter has he's a detective. Maybe that makes him more jurisdiction than, say, an officer. But he's going to come there too. So I definitely think we're going to see, the last bits of everyone who is still alive merge in there. And we might even get, flashback of Cooper Sacks dancing, his way down to when he was making the copies of the file and writing a letter. We still don't know the whole motive behind. We know the motive behind that, but we haven't seen that. So that could be a nice flashback. If we're gonna flash back to teenage Monet, why not flash back to Cooper? It makes more sense. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, we can't have a season without Cooper. So a flashback with Cooper Sacks, yeah, I'm all for it. But Richard, what do you think? Do you think that Monet is going to now seek out Kate Egan, and will this lead to us seeing Tommy possibly?
I think that's a strong possibility because they did mention Kate at the end of the episode. So I would not be surprised if they went to her place and they questioned her. And at that point, this is when Monet is going to find out, okay, so somebody is trying to be me. I don't know if she's going to know right off the bat. It must have been Diana, but I'm just saying they definitely are going to question Kate about this. I don't think, now listen, I don't know if Kate gets taken out. Obviously, if something happens to Kate, I kind of feel like that would bring Tommy back. But what I do know is that, yes, because this is the final season, I do expect that we're going to see a lot more ghosts, so quote unquote. Because from that first episode, you had the ghosts of Lorenzo, Mecca, and Zeke show up. You could potentially see Cooper Sacks again. And they say, imagine if it's where Tariq ends up getting arrested at the end of the season or what have you, you could probably see Cooper Sacks having some corny line like, we finally got you or something like that. I don't think they're going to do that. That'll be kind of cheesy. But I'm just saying, I do think we're going to see the return of other characters in some form or fashion because this is the end of the actual show. So, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, Kate, next week I do expect them to pursue Kate and get some answers as to what happened. So stay tuned.
Okay, yeah, I do feel like that could happen as early as next week. Obviously, we haven't seen the trailer yet for the next episode because that comes out after this. But yeah, I think we'll see that conversation go down between Monet and Kate. But let's get to final thoughts now. So I'm gonna go to you first, Dana. What's your final thoughts on?
Okay, so my final thoughts, I think that we are leading up to a very interesting season. I think, as you guys stated before, the addition of Carter really makes it more interesting and more unpredictable because we don't know exactly what is going on. I am fascinated by, as much as I don't like the pregnancy, again, that's another wrench they threw in there that's, adds to that unpredictability to it. So the whole thing, it's the theme for this season is him, whether or not he ends up turning into his father. But what was very interesting, at least for me, is, and this is the question that I wanted to ask everyone, if you watch the original Power series, Ghost was always trying to get out of the game. It was Tasha who didn't want him to get out because she was the one who liked everything. And even when they separated and Ghost died later on, remember she was running that babysitting thing, the babysitter's daycare, but she was also doing drugs. Not doing, but dealing the drugs as well. So this is more, I feel that I wonder if, yes, we have to wonder whether or not he's going to transform into his father, but I'm wondering if Tasha has somewhat of a blame for this entire situation. And even though she's trying to lead that straight and narrow path, and she's telling him, just be normal and everything is going to be okay, the burden of her suffering through that 9 to 5 job, dealing with Chris, the boss, is really the incentive as to why he is back in the game. And so I kind of wonder if this is a lot of, dealing with Tasha as well as him being ghosts. Because when I spoke to Michael Rainey, he said that, he's more than just ghosts. It's all of the people in his lives that made him who he is today. And I'm kind of wondering if we're putting too much of that pressure of whether or not he's going to end up being ghost and not looking at the other people and wonder, is that who he has to become as well? So with this episode, I kind of see that, yes, he's making his own choice to go back into the game, but in a way, I kind of feel that Tasha has something to hold some blame to this. And you guys also alluded that was the way he was raised. In terms of a life of luxury and you having to go back to poverty, that's something he never knew. So while, you could complain about the 11.25, to him, that's really like 2 quarters. Trying to buy, no, a dollar soda. It's not going to work. So I just kind of wonder if Tasha completely would have allowed Ghost to walk away from the game, and if Tasha never got back into the game with her daycare situationship, would he be able to be that man who he daydreamed about of just being a normal college student? So I think that is more of the questions that this season is asking, as opposed to whether or not he becomes his father. Because when we met him, even in episode 1, he wanted to get out, which is what we're seeing today in this season. He wants to get out. Overall, I think it's a very good job that they're doing, and it raises a lot of questions. So, yay for me.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of question over where Tariq is going to end up. So, yeah, I can't wait to see. It's going to be an interesting journey to follow. But Richard, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good episode. Um, Looking forward to seeing what happens. And to go to Dana's comment about the pregnancy, I understand that was probably not something we wanted to see. But one thing I will say, and I think you both made this comment earlier, they definitely will drag that out, because Diana had like 4 scenes in this episode where she gets the pregnancy test. She looks at the pregnancy test. Then she goes and does the test. Then she goes and gets the results, and then she talks to the doctor. So I kind of feel like by the time we get to the mid-season finale, that's the episode where she's probably going to say, hey, I'm pregnant. And that'll probably be the same episode where Tariq has her at gunpoint. That's what my prediction is. But overall, good episode. I'm glad the show was back, and I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments. I'm glad the show is back and everything. Um, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. I can't wait for that trailer as well for the next episode. Um, but yeah, go ahead, Dana.
Also, I think this is a great season to integrate 50 Cent's Candy Shop song into. Because I'll take you to the candy shop, and what's at that candy shop? Aha! Aha!
Yeah, that's a good point. Like that would be the perfect song. I do like the music that they implemented. I think they had that Nipsey Hussle song at the start of this episode. Like that was a good one. Yeah, the music selection is really good for this for this show. So yeah, props to the team on that. But yeah, so I just want to do a round of shout outs before we end off here, because I do want to big up to the community, the people who continuously come back and drop comments on the video. So I want to shout out some of the peoples who commented on the last episode. So uh, big shouts to Esther Negron, Raiwan, Chris White Empath, Jeremiah, QE, I think it's QEPA, Pia, Tracy Lee, and Caprice, Rainy J, of course. Who else? We got SJ Smith and Demarcus Vaughn. So big shouts to the family, the people who continue to support and drop comments and share their thoughts and theories with us. So thank you for all of your comments. Richard, you got any shout outs you wanted to give?
Oh, no, I think you said everybody. Yeah. Thank you all for your continued support. Checking out the shows. Definitely leave your comments and let us know what you thought about this episode and what you think is going to happen next.
Indeed. And Dana, any shout outs or you want to plug anything that's coming or anything?
Yeah, just shout outs to everyone who listens to us. Shout out to people who watch the show. Thank you to Stars again for being amazing and wonderful. In terms of plugging, we have the interview with Effie. There is more interviews with Tommy. One with Michael Rainey. Another one with Michael Rainey. We do have some Method Man coming up. And also weekly, we will be having, they call them post-mortem interviews. So after each episode ends, their big arc, we'll speak to that actor or actress about that arc, what was going on in that episode. So for example, season episode 2 was like, oh, look at what Effie is doing and her decision. So we had an interview with the actress who played Effie. Also, there's a lot of videos coming from the red carpet itself, a lot of pictures and images that happen, and more stuff. Eventually, we'll have something during the break when it does break after the 5 episodes, and it goes on that little, I think, a week break or maybe 2-week break. There could be some things that's in between that we'll have as well. So just stay tuned, and there will be content that is coming up. And once again, thank you for listening to us.
Indeed. Richard, I forgot to ask you actually, did you want to plug anything at all or are you good?
Oh, yeah. As Gary mentioned earlier, I do have a lot of things that I've been covering from going to Summer Game Fest last week. So if you are into gaming or some people into gaming, definitely have them check out the Koalition.com over the next couple of days, because I'll be posting up a lot of different things on the website. But that's pretty much it. But definitely let us know what you thought about this episode of Power. And we look forward to getting your thoughts and theories as to what could happen next.
Go ahead, Dana.
One more thing that I completely forgot. Game of Thrones. We have the cast of Game of Thrones and the executive producers and all of the people. So that, that does come up on Sunday. So that will be coming and dropping very soon. But we have the interviews, and that should be amazing because, oh my God, they never contact me.
Oh, wow. Is that for House of Dragons? Because I know that's coming back. Oh, you were muted, so I didn't hear. I can't hear you for some reason. Did you turn your mic off or something? Yeah, I don't know. We can't hear you right now. But yeah, House of Dragons, the interviews are coming. So definitely check that out. I know the marketing is big. I saw the banners on the Brooklyn Bridge and all that stuff. So yeah, that's great that we're getting some coverage for that. But I guess we're gonna end off here. Oh, there you go, Dana. You're back.
Yep. Oh, now you can hear me. Okay, wonderful. Yes. So that is for the House of the Dragon or House of the Dragon, whatever you pronounce it. It's interviews for that. So we do have that coming up, and it is Emmy season. So we have a lot of TV show interviews and stuff. Yay! Staying busy because it's also Tribeca Film Festival. Staying busy.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be very busy over the next few months. So yeah, but yeah, great show, great discussion. Shouts to the people once again, the koalition.com, that's coalition with a K. Go to the website, gaming, pop culture, entertainment, all that good stuff is there. So thank you to everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.